On December 15th, 1995, Konami released Genzo Suikoden for the PlayStation 1, and having picked up the game at the tender age of 7, my love of games and life as I knew it would never be the same. From a huge cast of colourful characters, the 108 Stars of Destiny, I was immediately hooked by the amazing music on display, the artwork, the colourful characters and their backstory, the bosses, and the world of Genzo Suikoden. And as we eagerly anticipate the release of the Suikoden HD remaster, I'm going to summarise the entire story of Genzo Suikoden 1. So let's get into it. Our story starts in Gregminster, which is the capital of the Scarlet Moon Empire, led by Emperor Barbarossa. We are first introduced to Teo McDohl, one of the 6 great generals and known as the General of 100 Victories, and dad of the main hero. He is summoned for an audience with Barbarossa Ragnar, who is accompanied by court sorceress Windy, who bears a canny resemblance to Barbarossa's late wife Claudia, and has been manipulating the Emperor for a period of time thus far to her own means. We learn that villagers and townfolk around the precincts of Gregminster have been abused with harsh taxes, and bandits have retaliated by looting the town's coffers in rebellion. And this would bring our hero Tir McDohl into his fate and destiny to change the world. A world governed by the 27 True Runes that hold mastery over chaos and order of the world of Genzo Suikoden. As father and son wait for an audience with the Emperor, Teo tells his son just to be himself in front of the Emperor, who Tir is meeting for the very first time. As Emperor Barbarossa and Teo reminisce over the good times, Barbarossa informs Teo of the ongoing trouble in the north and asks him to go up there to protect the border. He gives him his beloved sword Prak, which Teo gladly accepts as a sign of respect. And he also tells Tir McDohl, in the absence of Teo, can you give the Empire a hand in your father's stead? And with that, the hero of the game is assigned to command the Krays of the Imperial Guard, who will look after Tir. And Windy interludes to compliment Tir on being an attractive young man, as Tir meets Krays for the first time and notes he will not get any special treatment despite being the son of a great general. And with that, Teo and Tir head on home. As the McDohl family head home into central Gregminster, they are welcomed by Gremio, the house's servant and a former soldier of the Gregminster army. He welcomes the young master home and wants to know what happened in the audience of the Emperor. His best friend Ted, who is living with him, heard about the news. He met the Emperor and wants to know all about the occasion. In fact, Ted wants to join McDohl's entourage. He also lets him know that there's a secret that he wants to tell him, but before he can let it out, he is summoned for dinner by Gremio, who has some special stew ready. Supper is ready, and Teo McDohl lets everybody in the household know that he will be absent for a period of time and to give Tir McDohl their full support. And as everyone chows down, Teo toasts to his son and to the Empire. And as he makes his trip in the dead of night, he lets McDohl sleep as he knows they will meet again someday. Next day comes and Pan is excited for their first mission under Imperial General Krays. Northeast of Gregminster is Magician's Island. Leknak the Seer lives there, and she can look into the stars and provide some astral conclusions for Gregminster to act accordingly. There's no boat to Magician's Island, but a Dragon Knight from the Dragon's Den has been assigned to bring them in to the Magician's Island. He can be found in front of the barn. The dragon will transport the team and entourage, and they meet Futch, who is a Dragon Knight apprentice. Ted is called a punk, although he states he happens to be 300 years old. On the back of the Dragon Black, they arrive at Magician's Island. Futch will wait for them at the start, the end of his job. McDohl ventures in and finds a boy called Luck. Luck appears to be a magician's apprentice of some sort. With the Wind Rune, he summons a golem to test the party. The party face the first boss of the game. The golem is defeated, and with a cheeky smirk, Luck agrees to bring them into the Magician's Tower as honoured guests. They climb the tower all the way to the top, where they meet mysterious seer Leknat. She was expecting them from the Empire. These are astral conclusions that she prepares to hand over to the party. And as the camera pans down into her chambers, Leknat says that the future is not unchangeable, but she can only see the overall flow of things, and she tells Tir that his burden in the flow of destiny and his decisions will make an impact on the course of the war to come. He'll have painful choices to make, but as is the destiny of our hero, he must endure. And as the fabled guests prepare to leave, Leknat identifies Cleo as a potential mage and gives her a fire rune to keep in hand. Luck's Wind Rune transports the team back into the entrance of Magician's Island, where they meet Futch. As the party returns to deliver the astral conclusions to Kraze, he gives them their next assignment to the east of Gregminster, is a town called Rockland, where the local villagers have failed to pay the taxes. Kraze asks them to visit the military commander of Rockland, a man named Grady, and to take Kanan, a lackey of Gregminster, with them on the mission. Kanan straight away calls himself the superior and asks to see Grady. He demands Grady to give him an audience, which he duly obliges. Grady states that local bandits of Mount Sifu have been pillaging the local villages and therefore the taxes are not available to hand over. Getting rid of the bandits should be an easy task for the party, and the party venture to Mount Sifu, where they encounter the Queen Ant. And this menacing foe appears to be too much. Gremio risks his life to protect Tir, but Ted has an idea. With that, Ted releases a mysterious rune and with one gigantic black hole demolishes the Queen Ant. Kanan was surprised, shocked even. The bandits are encountered and they have no chance in the battle against Gregminster's finest. Farkas and Sidonia get defeated and Kanan captures the bandits before bringing them back to Rockland. And Grady thanks the team for capturing the bandits and hands over some money to the team to bring back for the local coffers in Gregminster. Kanan, unsurprisingly, said he will report to Commander Kraze himself, taking all the glory. Everyone goes back home to rest up. The bore of a man, Pan, knows exactly what's going on. Cleo urges Pan to let it go, but with that, Kanan asks Ted suspiciously to come with him and Ted wants to know what is going on. The party parts ways. The McDohl household is eating their meal when suddenly, at the entrance, Ted is found unconscious on the floor. Gremio is shocked. What is this blood? Is it magical? It's unnatural. Ted is wounded and carried to the bed. And we get a flashback with Ted's audience with Court Mistress Windy. It's been a while, they seem to recognize each other. It hasn't changed a bit in 300 years. She is envious. Ted notes that she is that witch from the past. And it immediately becomes obvious that Ted has been led into a trap. She wants his rune. Ted summons the power of the cursed rune, the Soul Eater, with a blinding flash of light. Back into the main story where Ted is on the bed, passed out. The Imperial Guard was after Ted. Ted requests her to take off his right glove. Cleo asks, is that one of the true runes? Ted confirms and says this one is called the Soul Eater, the cursed rune. Lady Windy had been chasing this rune. The witch wanted this rune, but he's been wandering the world for 300 years to escape from her. Ted silently asks her, with this wound, he'll never escape her. But the cursed rune must never be handed over to Windy. He entrusts the true rune, the Soul Eater, to his only friend Tir, who must now carry the burden. But suddenly, Kraze and Imperial Guard burst into the McDohl household and demand Ted to be handed over. Pan has confessed to the Imperial Guard. This is where Ted is located. Capture him now. Pan's loyalty to Commander Teo has betrayed the main party. Cleo will not allow them to take Ted, but Ted willingly volunteers to hand himself over. He will be the bait while Tir McDohl escapes behind the back of the house, and with that, the party escape the household in the rain in Gregminster. They find local shelter with Marie in the local inn. They will be labeled as fugitives as the Imperial Guard come to hunt down Tir McDohl. With that, the local party group up, and before they show their face to reveal themselves and be captured, a suspicious man called Victor, a bear of a man, comes down and says the party would never be as stupid as to hang around in Gregminster while they are fugitives. The Imperial Guard agree and Victor bursts out of the inn with the party in tow. Victor says, I know you look troubled. You're that rebel, McDohl, right? Leave it to me, but he has one condition. That the party meet a certain somebody on their way escaping. And with no choice but to follow Victor, they leave Gregminster for the foreseeable future. Gremio states his heart was pounding. They arrive in Lenan Camp, a town nearby. As Victor leads the party to make arrangements, the party gather in the bedroom, waiting to meet the honored guest. Victor has abandoned the crew when suddenly Imperial Guards show up to hunt for the fugitive Tir McDohl. And whilst pondering the options and what to do to escape, thankfully a lady appears behind the clock, and this appears to be Odessa, the woman that Victor wanted the party to meet. And thus begins the journey down a new path of fate. Odessa brings the party to meet the Liberation Army, all of the members around the table in this sewers. Rebel Army? No. This is Odessa Silverberg, the leader of the Liberation Army, and Victor introduces guest Tir McDohl, son of the Imperial Great General Teo McDohl. They request that Tir joins, and Gremio instantly shows his shock and dismay. And as they are about to leave, they find a bandit at the bottom of the stairs and bring him to Lady Odessa. The bandit explains that their bosses have been captured. Imperial Guard came over and captured their bosses, Vargas and Sidonia, names that sound familiar. And the corrupt Mayor Grady of Rockland has strung them up to die. And it's at this point McDohl reveals that he was the one that helped capture the bandit leaders Vargas and Sidonia. And Victor says they have to take responsibility and help to free the bandit leaders. He will accompany them. But having arrived at Rockland, security is tight at the Grady mansion. It'll be tough sneaking in, but Victor has some ideas. He starts a fire outside the mansion, and with that, they make their way into the courtyard, where they manage to rescue Vargas of the bandits. And his buddy Sidonia too, who actually releases himself. Grady approaches the party inside his mansion and he lambasts them for betraying the Emperor, freeing the bandits and setting his house on fire. Vargas says he owes Odessa their lives. The Liberation Army can call on the bandits at any time. And back at the hidden base in Lenin camp, back with Odessa, she's thankful that the party made it back safely. She reveals the plans for the fire spears. The Liberation Army is small now, but someday they will meet the Imperial forces head on. This blueprint must reach the secret factory. It is their hope for victory. She has given the assignment to Tir McDohl. Gremio, struggling to control his emotions on betraying the Empire before Cleo states that she will protect the young master no matter where he goes. Her job, as dictated by Teo McDohl, was to protect Tir McDohl no matter what. With that, Odessa says that the blueprints must be delivered to the secret factory. Sanchez reveals that north of Lenin camp, Mount Tiger Wolf is the path to take. Odessa will be going with the team as well. Now, on the mountains, they meet Ledon, a suspicious looking fella who runs a local tavern in the mountains. He says, rest up, recover your guts, stop here and continue tomorrow. The party getting high and drunk on the tea, and after they pass out, Ledon begins to steal all the goodies and potch, the money currency in the game, from all of the members. Kessler appears in the inn, greets Ledon, praises him before asking him why has he drugged the leader of the Liberation Army, Lady Odessa. Even an ignoramus like him should have recognized such a prominent figure. However, as the story goes on, they travel upwards into Saradi. As the party enters a snowbound village, they huddle and discuss the plans to meet the messenger from the secret factory. At night, Odessa secretly meets with Tir and confides in him about the expectations on her and whether she is worthy of their hopes. She reveals that she sometimes thinks of running away, and she asks Tir about what path he would like to take, and he says he will go back to the Empire. The next time they will meet will be as enemies. Each person has their own path in destiny to take. It is at this moment that Cage, the secret messenger from the factory, appears on behalf of Sir Mose, and they deliver the plans for the fire spears. Back at Lenin camp, the innkeeper is on the floor wounded. Odessa questions what happened, and in his wounded state, the innkeeper says that Imperial suddenly raided the inn. Odessa runs ahead of the party. The party fights the Imperial Guard underground and find Odessa wounded on the floor. Odessa slowly crawls up to reveal that she protected a blue-haired young boy. Odessa said she chose to be a woman rather than the leader of the Liberation Army. She could not let the child die. She believes she was a failure. She has two last requests, one to give an earring to a fellow called Matthew in the village of Seika, and the other is to throw away her body into the sewer so it will not be discovered by the Liberation Army and be demoralizing. And Odessa has a final message for Flick, to tell him that his kindness always saw her through the difficult times, and she hopes that Tir will see the free world that she could not. As the party gathers upstairs to think of a way to get to Seika, they must go through the fortress of Kawaba, marshaled by Commander Lord Aingade, an old friend of Master Teo, Tir's father. And whilst he may not know them directly, he might recognize Tir McDohl's face, so they think of names. So to conceal Tir, Victor poses Schlotton Reinbach III, a jujube vendor, to sneak McDohl into the village of Seika. In Seika, they meet a man who says that Matthew is atop those stairs. As the party ventures into the manor, they see Matthew's students who say he is out for a walk. The man they encountered previously reveals he is actually Matthew, and the party says they're going to honor Odessa's last request to give him her earring. She was a fine young woman, but she got mixed up in terrible things and he knew she would be in for trouble. And as Matthew refuses to accept the earring, the Imperial Guard burst past the party into Matthew's school. They request him to return to duty in the Imperial Army, and as he refuses, stating his warring days are over, the Imperial Guard threaten the kid. And with the party having seen enough, they burst onto the scene. They are taking over the fight and battle the Imperial Guard, and as they clear out the intruders, they meet Matthew again in his house. He reveals he knows that Tir is the son of Teo McDohl and that Odessa Silverberg was his sister. He labels himself a coward, but he'd rather be a coward than having to see the awful sights of war again. But today he realized he cannot close his eyes. He has to lend his strength for the goal that Odessa was striving for. He is a talented military strategist, and though he cannot lead the army himself, he requests Tir to be the leader. Gremio will follow Tir, as will Cleo, sick of the corrupt empire. And it is at this moment that Matthew reveals that in order to topple the Empire, the Liberation Army must recruit volunteers, people who are dissatisfied with the Empire, to lend a hand to Tir McDohl. They will need a headquarters to gather the Stars of Destiny. There's an abandoned castle in the middle of Lake Toran he believes would suit as an ideal headquarters, and as they approach the inn, a woman named Camille approaches Gremio and says that he owes her money, and Gremio thinks back, and he will do his best to repay her after the party make their way to Toran Castle. With that in mind, they approach two fishermen underground, a man named Taiho who has a boat. Taiho questions their sanity for wanting to go to a castle full of monsters, and as he will be risking his life to take them there, they will have to risk their finances in a game of Chinchururin with the Poch. As the party defeat Taiho, he agrees to take them to the castle. And as they land with Taiho's brother Yam-Ku, they decide to venture into the deserted rocky castle. They meet a zombie dragon who appears to be the guardian of the castle. As they battle the zombie dragon, Victor defeats him and states that the castle is now theirs. They need to give the castle a name, an appropriate name as the headquarters of the Liberation Army. Toran Castle it is. And just as the party gather in their new castle, Matthew congratulates Commander Tir. Leknak the Seer from Magician's Island appears and states that Tir has now chosen his own path in destiny. She provides the Tablet of Promise and states that the true power comes from recruiting colleagues by his side. Luck also accompanies Lady Leknak, and Leknak reveals that Luck will be the first party member to join. Whilst Matthew recommends a man named Lipant in the town of Koan, he is sure to be useful as a recruit, but unfortunately, as the party arrives in Koan, Giovanni prevents them from entering. A man named Kryn, a sneaky thief in a local inn, says that if they wish to steal his beloved sword Kalinji, they will need his help. He helps them to sneak around the side by a rope into Lipant's manor. They find Kalinji, his precious sword. As they come back into the inn, Lipant demands that the thieves return his beloved sword. Lipant finds the party members and they agree to return the sword to Lipant. And discovering that Matthew is involved, Lipant agrees to help. Just at that moment, Giovanni bursts onto the scene and calls his master and says the new military commander has taken away his beloved Eileen, his wife. Lipant bursts back into his manor, demands what is going on. He encounters the crooked Craze once again, who reveals he's been reassigned to this miserable town because of Tir's ordeal. At that moment, Pan enters the room. Craze commands him to capture Tir McDohl and redeem General Teo's name, but Pan says he wishes to follow his heart, and with that bursts through and knocks Craze out of the way and protects Eileen. Craze does a runner through the door, and Commander Tir is reunited with Pan, who wishes to join the Liberation Army. And though he does not wish to be forgiven, even so he would like to lend a hand to Tir McDohl and reunite once again. Lipant also states that he was blindly ignoring the Empire, but he cannot blindly ignore anymore since his family was in trouble. Varkas the Mountain Bandit appears at the castle. They avoid getting detected and they have appeared to lend Tir a hand. They request to see Lady Odessa, but Matthew says Odessa has gone north on a mission to avoid demoralizing the troops. Tir is the leader whilst they're away, and they feast to their new castle. As Tir talks to each respective member of the table, he goes out and is ambushed by an assassin who wishes to take the ruin from his right hand, the Soul Eater. The assassin states that no matter where he goes, Lady Windy will always be ready to come after Tir McDohl and his ruin. Pan and Gremio decide to take turns looking after Tir, and as Tir exits the castle, they find an elf called Kirkus on the floor. Kirkus has swam all the way to request to speak to Lady Odessa. However, Odessa is not here right now, and therefore Tir, as acting commander, hears Kirkus out. as Kirkis requests aid for the elves because Commander Rosman, one of the Empire's generals, is on a mission to exterminate elves, and Matthew states that even though the Liberation Army is small, they send a small group on a reconnaissance mission to gain intelligence. Kirkis states they better not cause a ruckus, and he will lead the way for a secret elven path. As they cross the kobold village, they note that no kobolds are here except for one brave kobold called Koromimi, who states that humans have taken away his friends. As we go to the elven village, Valeria, a former general, has come to warn the elves that Commander Rosman is planning something truly frightening to exterminate the elves. But the elves distrust all humans, and as Kirkis has brought the humans to the elven village, they all get imprisoned alongside Valeria. The elves are stubborn and believe they need no assistance from humans, and therefore when Kirkis left the village without permission and brought back filthy humans, he disobeyed the command of the elders, and Valeria and the humans and Kirkis are all jailed alongside Stallion in the elven prison. Commander Rosman has commissioned a horrendous weapon to exterminate the rebellious elves. It's called the Burning Mirror, and it can burn down an entire forest in an instant. The elven forest is home to all the elves, and unfortunately they can only stand by and watch. But in a moment of luck, Sylvina, Kirkis' close friend, comes to release them out of the prison. Kirkis has an idea to approach the dwarves in the north about a weapon to counter the Burning Mirror. The dwarves know about the Burning Mirror as it's one of their own treasures, and they are unaware that it has been stolen by Commander Rosman. The dwarf thinks it's hilarious that a human can go and break their impenetrable vault, and therefore challenges the party to break in themselves to obtain documents and blueprints for a weapon that can counteract the Burning Mirror. In there, they fight a horrendous half-genie monster, find their way and obtain the running water route. This convinces the Dwarven chief of their claims. They have a weapon that can destroy the Burning Mirror called the Firewind Cannon, and he'll have one built right away for the party. But as they return through the mountain, they see the forest burning on fire. As they approach the forest, it is too late and the forest has been decimated. Valeria and Kirkis mourn for the lost lives, and the ring that Kirkis has been holding for Sylvina no longer has value as he throws it to the floor. There's nothing left as the party wallow, but Gremio gets the ring and tells Kirkis this ring is yours and you must never give up hope. And as the party try to return back to the castle in the kobold village, they are ambushed by the Empire soldiers, and Valeria offers to turn herself in exchange for the safety of the party. And as Valeria is escorted away, an order is made to the Empire's men to kill the party, and they battle. However, they are chased away when Matthew turns up with the Liberation Army soldiers. Stallion had dashed to warn Matthew, and it turns out that Sylvina is still alive, giving Kirkis a massive hug. And as the commander left the castle, Humphrey Sanchez with the survivors of the old Liberation Army turned up, and they now have the manpower to fight against Commander Rosman's men on equal footing. The Liberation Army, with 7,000 troops strong, vow revenge against Commander Rosman for burning down the Elven Forest, and they meet on the battlegrounds and make their way to Commander Rosman's fortress. Commander Rosman, behind the Burning Mirror, wants to use the power of this deadly weapon to destroy all of the traitors of the Empire, but just before he can fire this deadly weapon, it is blown to pieces by the power of the wind fire cannon by the dwarves. The Dwarven King has appeared to show the power of the wind fire cannon, and this is the chance that Victor and crew need to infiltrate the fortress and take on Commander Rosman. They fight a deadly thunder dragon, and they encounter Commander Rosman on the roof as he questions whether Tir is the son of Teo McDohl. He had heard rumors, but now he has confirmed it for himself, that Teo's boy has betrayed the Empire, and therefore Commander Rosman will take him on with full strength and no mercy. But Commander Rosman falls to the power of Tir and the Soul Eater. A shining rune is magnified on his arm, and it appears that he has been controlled by exterior forces, aka Lady Windy. It began to affect his willpower and judgment, and he now knows that Windy cannot be trusted and the Emperor is being manipulated behind the scenes. He requests to join the Liberation Army, and though he is still loyal to Emperor Barbarossa, he cannot serve the Emperor in his current form. As Matthew congratulates Commander Tir for their first big victory, and the spell over Commander Rosman is broken, and the elves thank Tir for their help. Just at that time, when they return to the castle, Flick greets Tir and asks where is Lady Odessa. Victor confirms that he was unable to prevent Lady Odessa's death, and Odessa was killed when the hideout at Lennon Camp was ambushed. And though Matthew states that Odessa was thinking always about the Liberation Army, Flick, in an outburst, refuses to acknowledge the situation and refuses to acknowledge Tir McDohl. This kid cannot possibly follow Lady Odessa, and Flick storms off in disgust and departs sulking to the local village of Kaku, where Victor and Tir greet him again, and Flick confirms that Odessa always believed in him as a leader, and even though he was enraged at her death, he completely forgot the reasons he came to join the Liberation Army, and this is no time for bickering. Whilst he cannot accept Tir as the leader, he is grateful that he now has comrades and men assembled in the lake to help fight against the Empire. Flick abandoned the Lennenkamp hideout. He went west, in the domain of Milich Oppenheimer, and with the men that Flick has brought to join the Liberation Army gathered together, they can now approach and fight on that front as the Liberation scores a crushing victory against the Imperial Army at the bridge. And whilst they're rejoicing and bigging up their victory, Matthews states that we must know what the enemy are thinking before we approach, and suggests a reconnaissance mission to find out what they're up to in Milich Oppenheimer's base. But Flick, in his hasty brashness, says that the enemy is careless and it's their chance to attack, so they meet Milich Oppenheimer's formidable forces on the battlefield, 12,000 strong, and they get wiped, with the ability of Milich's poisonous pollen decimating the forces of the Liberation Army and causing a crushing defeat. Matthew calls the retreat, and Sanchez says we should still do the reconnaissance mission, with Gremio demanding to come, but Victor stating he should no longer babysit Tir McDohl. They find a man called again who will help with Commando build a ship capable of traversing rapids, stand in their way of meeting famous Dr. Liu Kang, who can help counteract the poison of Milich Oppenheimer. Commando and again build the ship as Gremio at nighttime ponders whether he's repaid his debt to Master Teo and whether Tir still needs his protection. As they gathered equipment loaded on the ship to traverse the rapids, they find the hermit Liu Kang in his little hideaway. It's at that time Milich Oppenheimer drops down on a dragon and begins to confront Tir McDohl. And Milich begins to taunt Tir McDohl, saying Teo would never forgive him for betraying the Empire, and nonchalantly says he won't forgive Tir for trying to render his precious flowers obsolete, and with that he departs with Liu Kang in tow. Matthew, back at the base, says in the township of Ante, now called Bière Blanche, lives a counterfeiter named Kimberly, and they need to seek her out and a scrivener named Tesla in order to progress the story. So they send Flick to use his charms to convince Kimberly, and they overcome Tesla's many excuses and lies. They eventually convince them to help forge documents that will allow them to enter Milich's palace and jail and help free Liu Kang. With official forged documents, Tir McDohl and party now go through the front door with Milich Oppenheimer's unofficial permission through the forged paperwork, and they attempt to free Liu Kang from his prison. They find Liu Kang, and as they are trying to exit the impenetrable fortress, they are blocked by Milich Oppenheimer, who seals the door behind them and drops man-eating spores of agony to destroy the party and devour their flesh once and for all. This is an absolute tragedy as Milich Oppenheimer traps them inside, and as the door will only open from one side with the switch, Gremio pushes the party to safety and says that he can no longer protect the young master, sacrificing himself alone with the man-eating spores, and bids his final farewell, wishing that Teo could one day see the man that Tir has become. Gremio's remains are still on the floor as Matthew appears, taking note of the situation and unlocking the lever so that Tir and party can escape, while Tir reminisces over Gremio's loss. Matthew says that as a strategic advisor, it's time to attack Scarletica Castle right now, with Liu Kang providing the army with an antidote, and with that the Liberation Army crush the Imperial Army and make their way into Milich's home base. And as they work their way through the castle and reach the roof, Victor, Tir and the party see the poisonous flowers in full effect, and Milich states that it burns. The rune that Lady Windy has given Milich is burning. The black rune pink balloon of evil is controlling and manipulating Milich as it did with Commander Rosmond. And whilst Pan and Victor can't forgive Milich for killing Gremio, Flick tries to reason with them and asks them to respect Tir McDohl's decision and to follow his orders. Milich officially states that he would like to join the Liberation Army and lend a hand, as the Emperor has been enraptured by Windy's resemblance to his late darling Claudia. It's then when Stallion appears and says the Imperial Army is approaching, and Sanchez beckons the army to return back to base. And with the party back at the base, a local ninja called Kasumi from Rokkaku has said that whilst they've held off Imperial rule for a long time, it has finally fallen to Teo McDohl's forces, and it is time to encounter the date with destiny. General Teo McDohl against Sun, leader Liberation Army Commander Tir McDohl. They suggest a skirmish to test Teo McDohl's army's forces, and Teo says that he will show no mercy to the traitors on the battlefield. As the party feels the full might of Teo McDohl's Imperial Army with cavalry charges decimating the forces of the Liberation Army, they agree to retreat, but are pursued by Teo, Allen, Grensel and armoured cavalry forces, and at this rate, they will not escape. So Pan volunteers to sacrifice himself to hold off the deadly charge of Teo McDohl. Pan states that he cannot let them go, and he will hold the fort and duel Teo mano a mano to defend the position. As Pan defeats Teo, Teo respectfully retreats, and Leknak pays Tir a visit at nighttime, stating he's confused at the death of Gremio and the battle with his father, but he must go on and lead the Liberation Army and follow the strands of fate. The rune that Ted has given him gives him the path through destiny, and he is the anointed one to bring the Soul Eater to its true potential and stop Lady Windy from getting 2 true runes, as it will be catastrophic for the world. Flick reminds Tir McDohl that they had plans for the Fire Spears, and that those Fire Spears could defeat the armoured cavalry of Teo McDohl, and the Fire Spear, being Odessa's last gift, would come in handy. And as they make their way to the secret factory, a lady called Ronnie Bell is arguing with Kessler and Ledon. They make their way to Mose of the secret factory, who has prepared the Fire Spears for usage. They do not have a boat that can transport the Fire Spears, but there is a man named Kunto who may be able to help in Kirov. Tai-Ho leads the party to Kirov, and in an interaction with Kunto agrees to load the Fire Spears onto 10 boats to bring back to the Liberation Army forces to battle against Teo McDohl. And we see Ronnie Bell loading the spears, and with the armoured spears in hand, they now prepare to enter the battlefield to fight against Teo McDohl once again. And with the power of the Fire Spears proving decisive, they score a crushing victory against Teo McDohl. As they encounter him on the field, Allen and Grensel stand mano a mano against Tir McDohl's party, but this can only be decided on a one-on-one duel. Father and son, it's time to duel, as Teo wields his arms against Tir. And though Matthew reasons against it, Tir, being the leader of the Liberation Army, stands up and takes Teo out, finally surpassing his father. And as Teo lays dying on the floor, he confides in Tir that he is so proud of him and has lived with no regrets. Tir must live with what he believes in, and with his blessings hands Allen and Grensel to the Liberation Army to use as he sees fit. And Teo states with his final words that the greatest joy a father can get is seeing his son surpass him. With Teo's death, the Soul Eater is powered up again with the soul of a beloved one, and the plant back at the castle says that insurgencies are breaking all across the land and the Imperial's hands are full. Matthew states that this is the news that they've been waiting for. Teo McDohl's army has been defeated, and with that, they venture south. But unfortunately, there is no one garrisoned at the fortress, and they believe it is super strange. They end up in a warrior's village where they see young uprising hero Hicks pleading with Tengar not to go. Tengar states that she wishes to go, and Zorak, the leader of the village, says to stay indoors in case Neclord shows up. And Neclord, the name, rings a bell with Victor. Neclord is a former general of the Imperial Army who turned into a frightening vampire. He turns his men into zombies and skeletons, and these demonic warriors cannot be defeated in current form. They're not able to stop Neclord's advances with his magical powers being too formidable, as Hicks confides in Cleo that he needs to get strong to protect Tengar and protect the village. Victor reveals he has finally found Neclord, and that Neclord isn't human because he misused a rune and became a vampire. And just as he says that, Neclord appears in the morning in front of the party, wanting the daughter of Zorak, Tengar, to be offered as a tribute. Zorak and the warriors village attack Neclord but are absolutely decimated. And with the opportunity now in front of him, Victor tries to get revenge on Neclord, but he also falls alongside the party. Now, Neclord demands Tengar as his 70th bride, and Hicks stands in his way. However, Tengar agrees to go with Neclord on the condition that Neclord does not harm anyone else in the warriors village, and Hicks vows revenge. And as the party recuperate in the local inn, Victor says that they were powerless and they need a special weapon to beat Neclord once and for all. Zorak confirms in west of the village there is a temple in Kulon, guarded by Fukion, who says in the cave of the past there is the weapon that they seek. And deep inside the cave they meet the Star Dragon Sword, who speaks to Victor, warning him that those who dare wake the Star Dragon Sword will be cursed and are sent back in time. And with a vivid flash of light, party land deep in time in the village of the Hidden Rune, where they meet a young Ted. Ted can see the party and asks if they are the ones who have come to take away his treasure. The village chief, Ted's grandpa, calls to him as Ted makes his way off of the screen. Ted's grandpa confirms that Ted must leave this place immediately as his pursuers are after him, whilst Ted wants to stay behind and talk to the party. Cleo asks who is that woman that you're afraid of, as Windy, the rune mistress of Emperor Barbarossa, appears with a Neclord in front of the village chief and party. Windy has said that she's made her way to this village because they've refused to give her that rune, and she knows that the rune is here in the village of the Hidden Rune. And Cleo puts two and two together as the village begins to burn. Windy and a man named Yuba have begun to destroy the village. And with Windy demanding the rune on threat of destroying the village in its entirety, the village chief uses the power of the Soul Eater to strike away at the enemy, causing ripples in the battlefield. And as they retreat to the back of his house, he apologizes to the party having got them involved and hands over the Soul Eater to Ted. And it's at this moment that everything begins to make sense. The village chief has given the burden of the Soul Eater rune over to a young Ted way back into the past. The party see Ted inheriting the rune, and the village chief begs for forgiveness as he's passed on a huge burden of sacrifice to Ted and asks that he never lets Windy get her hands onto this rune. And as the party escapes through a secret back door, they are encountered by Yuba, and Victor feels his terrible power. But just at that moment, Neclord intervenes and says that Lady Windy has asked them to gather as the old man has retreated into the forest. And Neclord, while acknowledging Victor, says that he'll take him on some other time as Ted wonders what happens to his grandpa, and Cleo confides in him that he's going to have to depend on himself from now on, and Ted with that departs on his destiny. Cleo confirming that this is indeed their Ted that they know and love. Ted is going to be on his own for a long time until he meets Tir McDohl in the future. She tells him not to let anyone know about the rune on his right hand, and with that, the party make their way back into the present to the Star Dragon Sword, and Victor confides that he needs his power to kill the vampire Neclord. Star Dragon Sword confirmed he was tired of sleeping and agrees to join Victor on his quest to put an end to Neclord once and for all. And back at Warrior's Village with the Star Dragon Sword in hand, Victor now has the confidence to take on Neclord once and for all. And the party and the members of the Warrior's Village make their way to Neclord's castle, where they vow to show the power of the Warrior's Village. And it is then that Neclord greets them at the entrance and states that they are so rude to interrupt his wedding with all their weapons. And though it's a trap, as Cleo clearly states, Victor says that they have no choice but to go, and Hicks demands to come along as well. As a member of the Warrior's Village, despite having not proved himself, he promised Tengar that he would keep her safe and pleads with Master Tur to take him along, and Zorak gives his blessings as he has been waiting for Hicks to come of age, and it's time for Hicks to show he is a proud man and warrior of the Warrior's Village to save his beloved Tengar, who is Neclord's next chosen bride. As Neclord plays the organ and greets the members at the top of the castle, he now engages with Hicks, Victor, Tur and the party to decide the fate of Tengar. As Victor curses him for the fate of North Window Village, he is here with the Star Dragon Sword alongside Hicks with his beloved Tengar sword to destroy Neclord in tandem. As the party defeat Neclord with the help of the Star Dragon Sword, Victor says for his 500 years of evil deeds, Victor has come to take revenge and topple the vampire once and for all, and with a decisive slice banishes Neclord, at least for now. And with Tengar saved, the Warrior's Village chief swears allegiance to the Liberation Army and to assist him at all times. And having headed back to the castle, Matthew says that according to Kasumi and Kryn, Kasim Hazel is building up forces in the north, Humphrey happens to be an old friend of Joshua, the commander of the Knights of the Dragon's Den, the Dragon Knights, as you saw with Futch at the beginning of the game. The Dragon Knights have always rejected imperial jurisdiction. They have remained neutral, but their base is closely guarded and no one comes in. However, a narcissist called Vincent de Boer says that behind a rock where he used to play is a secret passage into the Dragon's Den where the party meet with Futch again. They also meet with Milich, the deputy commander of the Dragon's Knight. There's something wrong. All of the dragons appear to be sleeping and inactive at this time. They meet with Joshua, who's tried to keep it a secret. However, it can no longer be withheld. The dragons are in a pickle. They are all asleep and there is no way to wake them up, and therefore the Dragon's Den are completely powerless. They brought many doctors to try to cure the sickness of the dragons, but not a single one could heal them. They sent a man to look for Liu Kang, the holy doctor, but Liu Kang has disappeared from his hermitage. Liu Kang? We have Liu Kang right here, and Liu Kang is tasked with looking at the dragons and coming up with a cure to restore them to their flight and power. They've been poisoned with sleeping poison, and he can prepare an antidote, but he will need certain ingredients: moonlight weed, black dragon orchid, and a final ingredient that Liu Kang has not yet revealed. But moonlight weed can be found in Seek Valley near Gregminster in the floating gardens, and as Tir encounters a devastating crystal enemy, they make their way to the end of the garden where they see the moonlight weed. They are approached by Windy, who knew of their plans in advance, but she cannot let them leave with the moonlight weed. She appears right before them and demands that Tir gives her the Soul Eater. And whilst she won't force the party directly, she summons Ted, who lambasts the hero, taking the Soul Eater and not giving it back. Teo McDohl, using the power of the Soul Eater to summon a vortex, brings himself and Ted within a comfortable zone where they can speak directly. And Ted reveals that whilst the Conqueror Rune has taken over his body, it has not completely taken over his soul as of yet. He has a limited time and he must hurry. Ted spent 300 years with the Soul Eater, knows about the Soul Eater's curse, in which it takes the souls of their loved ones in order to power itself up. It took Odessa, Teo, and Gremio, and now it's time to take Ted. So with his final command, Ted commands the Soul Eater to take Ted's soul before it was overwhelmed by Windy's Conqueror Rune. And as Windy stands in shock at the events that just unfolded, she vows to take the rune one day. And Ted gives a final emotional farewell to Tir, having his soul been taken by the Soul Eater. Milich says everyone is waiting at home, and back at the base, Liu Kang revealed that the only place where you can obtain Black Dragon Orchid is the floating garden at Gregminster, but he regrets having said that in front of Futch, as Futch has ventured alone with his dragon Black to retrieve it. Black and Futch land at the floating gardens. He finds the Black Orchid as described by Liu Kang, but he is met by Emperor Barbarossa. He is surprised at the apprentice Dragon Knight appearing in front of him. Futch reveals he's come to get the Black Dragon Orchid, and Barbarossa allows him to leave. But before he can, the witch Windy appears just in time to confront Futch, and as Futch tries to escape nobly in the skies, Windy strikes him down with a pure bolt of magic, sending Futch and Black crashing down from the skies above. Futch recovers back at the dragon's base, where he's found unconscious by Milich in the forest, and he had the Black Dragon Orchid in hand. They had a hard time prying it, but unfortunately Dragon Black had already passed away. And Joshua and Liu Kang revealed the secret last ingredient was dragon's liver, of which they used for the deceased Black. But they confirmed that the Dragon Knights are now part of the Liberation Army, and with that, Tir arrives home to see Kasumi and Krin discussing a potential spy in the ranks. They are actually talking about a strange man who has appeared at the base. Krin and Kasumi captured him, and he refuses to say anything until Tir McDohl is back. Tir talks to the man named Taggart, who asks is he the commander of Liberation Army. He can now finally complete his mission for Master Warren. Kasim Hazel, who took over the northern defense borders from Teo McDohl, recently began to apply pressure to extremists on the border. And Matthew recognizes Warren as an honorable man, so they must go and rescue him. It also reveals that a spy has infiltrated the Liberation Army, and the victor had been captured behind the scenes. Kasumi and Krin were sent on a reconnaissance mission into Imperial territory. They have now decided to attack the northern border to attack the Imperial forces. They are now going on the offensive, and Sanchez, although he thought it was just a drill, it was actually a ploy by Matthew to actually go on the offensive and attack. Griffith, who thought the Liberation Army were training on the day, asked the guards at the northern border to report to General Qasim Hazel when he tries to stall the Liberation Army. He thought he was set for life, having defended the border and joining the Imperials, but he was wrong, and he agrees to the proposition to join the Liberation Army and help their cause. And all the while, Matthew requests that Lepant and Flick take separate battalions to attack fortresses in the north, where Qasim Hazel will be forced to send reinforcements to defend the north as the protector of the north. Meanwhile, the party will go to Moravia Castle and rescue Warren and Victor. And with the plan set in motion, Griffith gives Imperial uniforms to the party and helps them to infiltrate the castle on his command, where they find Warren, Victor and Vincent de Boll waiting for them to rescue them. Warren meets Tir McDohl for the first time and agrees to join the cause as well. Qasim Hazel has captured Matthew and asked him, is it because of that incident that you left the Imperial Army? Come back, it's been 3 or 4 years already, I'd rather not execute you as a traitor. But just as he says that, it's announced that General Qasim Hazel is surrounded. Matthew has planned this all along. He sent a letter to Jalston informing them of the Imperial plans to invade their land. Jalston has surrounded them. Lepant has won the battle at the fortress. The Liberation Army has surrounded the base and the castle, and he kindly asked Qasim Hazel to surrender, to join the Liberation Army, to save the Emperor from what he's become. And Milich appears to vouch that the Emperor is now a changed man, and General Qasim Hazel duly surrenders. And the next day, Matthew gathers the troops and said they have liberated most of the empire, leaving only the imperial capital and Sonia Shulan's floating fortress of Shahrazade. He prepares 500 boats for an invasion on the floating fortress and promises that he will have 500 boats prepared. And with the ice boats prepared, he awaits the orders for Tir to start battle with Sonia Shulan's imperial army. And upon defeating her army and docking on the mound, they prepare to burn the fortress with oil. But in order to do so, Tir must close the floodgates of the fortress. They meet an invincible magical clam, and after defeating it, Victor climbs up to the sluice gates and manually closes the dam, preparing for the ignition of the fortress. Sonia Shulan greets them and says she is the last of the 5 imperial generals, and she asks why Tir would betray the empire, betray his own father, a man that she loved herself. With the fortress now set ablaze, and after losing a duel to Tir, she defiantly says she will not be defiled and prepares to end herself, but before she can, Victor stops her in her tracks. And as the party prepare to leave the floating fortress, Matthew is wounded on the ground, injured mortally by Sanchez. And Flick berates Sanchez for lighting the oil and fortress on fire before the signal. Sanchez reveals that he has always been part of the Empire the entire time, and it was he that leaked the location of Odessa's secret hideout. He was to blame for Odessa's death and the Empire stalking the Liberation Army. And as Flick prepares to strike with vengeance with his Odessa ++ sword to take Sanchez's head, Matthew stops him in his tracks and mentions if the Liberation Army find out that Sanchez was a mole, the morale will plummet, and later the administration will punish him anyway. Back at the castle, Cleo tries to convince Sonia Shulan to join the Liberation Army, stating that Teo's final face was peaceful. Despite her loyalty to the Empire, she agrees to join, but she will not help in the fight, only to stand by Tir's side to see him hopefully defeated. Now, Matthew gathers the troops for a final attack on Gregminster, now with the whole army in tow and all the generals from Victor to Kirkis, Pan to Flick. The time for the Liberation Army to end the Empire once and for all is at hand, and with that in mind, Leknak the Seer appears and told Tir that the time has come to reveal everything. Her sister Windy was looking for vengeance against the entire world for what happened to her clan back in the day. Leknak states that the 108 Stars of Destiny have gathered in the Liberation Army, but Victor corrects her that Gremio has passed away. But with that in mind, Leknak uses her True Rune, Back Gate Rune, to summon between dimensions Gremio back into the present day, and with that, Pan and Cleo, friends and family, rejoice at the returning Gremio into the 108 Stars of Destiny, and under the banner of Commander Tir McDohl, it is time for the Liberation Army to defeat the Empire once and for all. And on the battlefield, Leknak uses her rune to banish the monsters summoned by Yuba and Windy. The demonic army from another world, the Chaos Realm, have been banished with the help of Joshua Leventide, who uses his true rune, the Dragon Rune, alongside the Backgate Rune to ensure that this will be a fair battle between the men of the mortal realm. And in the battle, the Liberation Army conquers the Empire and Yuba disappears without a trace. And the leaders of the Dwarven race, the Warriors Village, the hidden village of Rokaku ninjas, they all gather under Tir McDohl on the battlefield and successfully conquer the last hurdle that allows Tir McDohl to finally enter his hometown of Gregminster to approach the Emperor himself for the final battle to achieve Lady Odessa's dream of a free country. Ein guide who stands guard, he is the one who led her through the border to start the journey, makes his last stand in defiance to protect Emperor Barbarossa, and claims that he will go first. Tir, having entered the castle, the Imperial Castle, meets Barbarossa on the roof, commander of the Liberation Army versus the Emperor himself. This is the remains of the Scarlet Moon Empire, and Barbarossa vows to protect it with his dying breath. He uses his Trune Rune Dragon King sword, the Sovereign Rune, and transforms into a three-headed golden dragon. But the power of the Liberation Army is too much, and with his loyal generals beside Teo McDohl, reminisce on the man that he was before he encountered Lady Windy. Lady Windy appears on the roof to pity the fallen Emperor. But no matter, she is prepared to take actions with her own hands. She wounds Qasim Hazel and says that now that the Empire is dead, Tir is next. She comes forward to try to claim the Soul Eater rune directly herself. However, at that point, the souls buried deep within the Soul Eater rune that powered Teo McDohl's journey, Gremio, Ted, Odessa, and Teo, offer spiritual protection to Tir. The Soul Eater has rejected Windy's advances, and Barbarossa reveals that he was never under Lady Windy's control. His Sovereign rune protected him from all forms of magic, and her Black rune never had the ability to manipulate him. He was merely in love with her and wanted to help her erase the sadness from her past. And with that, Barbarossa gives his final speech that as a result of his mistake, he lost his whole entire empire, and wonders what kind of land Tir will make in his place. And with that, he grabs Windy and jumps off the ledge to their apparent demise. And as the former general sees the end of Barbarossa, the castle is crumbling. The final loyal guards attempt to fend off the invaders, but Victor with a Star Dragon sword and Flick with his Odessa sword duel till the last. In the name of his sword, he will not let them pass. The Liberation Army watch on from the entrance of Gregminster in triumph. They have won. And the scene moves to Matthew, who asks Master Liu Kang, "Those voices, have we won?" In his deathbed, he reminisces on everything he's done, and Liu Kang wishes that he rests in peace, having accomplished much in his life. And with that, the game ends, with Tir the Tenkai Star either leaving for a journey anew or becoming the president. Lepant can become the new president of the Toran Republic or live in peace with his family. Master Matthew rests in peace upon a victory. Luck disappears with Leknak. Humphrey leaves the Toran Republic with Futch. Qasim becomes the new commander-in-chief and protects the border. Kwanda becomes the commander-in-chief of the Republican army. Peshmerga still searches for Yuba. Gremio follows Tir no matter where he goes. Warren becomes the first chairman of the Toran Republic's Congress. Kanto wields power as he's the head of the Merchants Guild. Cleo, tired of fighting, looks after Teo's mansion. Victor goes missing in the final battle. Valeria becomes the platoon commander and mediates with the elves. Griffith begins a business. Clive disappears by the time the war was finished. Flick disappeared during the final battle. Camille became the lance instructor of the Republican army. Kreutz leaves the country. Stallion departs to become the fastest elf in the world. Cage disappears with his contract finished. Fusu Lu stays with the kobolds, then sets off on an adventure. Kirkis rebuilds the village of the elves. Milich spends his life protecting the grave of Barbarossa. Pan embarks on a journey to improve his imperfect self. Sonia Shulan becomes admiral of the Republican Navy. Angie plans to go into the shipping business and make a load. Taiho returns to Kaku and enjoys a carefree life. Kanak goes into business with Angie. Yamku lives by the shores of Lake Toran and enjoys his fishing. Leonardo goes into business with Angie. Hicks, accepted as a true warrior, departs on a journey. Tengar follows Hicks wherever he may go. Varkas is named the captain of the border guard. Sidonia completely disappears with teleportation. Eileen is always by Lepant's side. Whilst Leon Silverberg spends the remainder of his life in his hometown ... Georges disappears north saying he's found a good business. Ivanov sets off on a journey to find the colors of freedom. Jean resumes her career as the rune master at Ante. Suspicious. IK departs on a journey in search of worthy warriors. Maximilian retires from the Maximilian Knights. Sancho continues to serve his master. Grensil is appointed the co-commander of the Republican Guard. Alan is also the co-commander of the Republican Guard. Tesla becomes the Secretary General of the Toran Republic. Jabba is placed in charge of the Republic's finances. Lorelei sets off on another adventure to another land. They're searching for Sindar. Blackman returns to the fields. Joshua returns to the Dragon's Den to coach the juniors. Morgan returns to Kulon Temple and resumes his studies. Mose works in rebuilding the new capital of Gregminster. Esmeralda lives a comfortable life with a garden full of roses. Melody departs to collect all sounds of the world. Chapman retires from the armory and opens a successful theatre. Liu Kang opens a clinic and saves many lives. Fuqian returns to Kulon Temple. Futch departs with Humphrey on another journey. Kasumi returns to the secret village of Rokkaku. Mas, dissatisfied with his work, continues his studies. Crowley, despising the world, returns to the caverns. Fuma is invited to Rokkaku. Mose becomes a master blacksmith. Mies goes to the village of the dwarves to improve his skills. Sergei becomes rich off of his inventions. Kimberly forces her way into Taiho's household. Sheena wandering around and has a good time as usual. Kessler is named captain of the Toran Republic Patrol Corps. Marco leads a vigorous life. Gen returns to Tean where he continues to build his ships. Hugo is appointed the Republic's first Chief Justice. Helion succeeds Leknak as the Seer. Mina becomes the most popular dancer in the Republic. Milia returns to the Dragon's Den where she resumes her duties. Commando, still preoccupied with alchemical studies. Jupo departs on a journey to find a bigger trick. Castios departs to spread the Liberation Army's songs. Vicky fails another teleportation spell, achoo, and disappears. Ruby is welcomed to the restored village of the elves. Vincent de Boll returns home and claims his inheritance. Meg leaves home saying another adventure calls. Taggart becomes assistant to Warren. Giovanni starts his own business. Quincy returns to the forest. Apple goes off to collect material for a biography of Matthew. Kai is appointed martial arts instructor. Lottie lives in a small house with Mina the cat. Mace lets Mose succeed and retires. O'Neill still loves to gossip. Kuramimi becomes the village chief of the Kobolds. Gon is working hard to become the #1 warrior in Kobold. Antonio is still the cook at Mary's Inn. Lester opens a restaurant specializing in stews. Kirk throws away his scythe and becomes a farmer. Rock is asked to design a giant safe for the dwarves and he sets to work. Ledon enjoys success after opening an honest inn. Sylvina marries her childhood sweetheart, Kirkis. Belle is said to be training for homemaking. Gasper still tossing the dice Jinchurolin in Kaku. Window accepts an offer to design stained glass windows. Marie reopens her inn at Gregminster. Zen, the ancient town of Toran is still full of flowers. Sarah works as a maid at Mary's Inn. Sansuke keeps busy designing new bathtubs. Kulon gladly accepts an offer to become the keeper of Toran Castle. Templeton departs for the sea in search of the edge of the world. Kryn steals Gregminster Palace's treasure and disappears. Chandler finally succeeds in opening his own store. And with that, the 108 Stars of Destiny set off on their own path. You see Tur and Gremio leave the Toran Republic once and for, and the credits roll. Now, if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane with a complete story coverage of Genzo Suikoden #1, make sure to like the video and subscribe to help try and get Suikoden 6 made. It is my mission to gather all the Stars of Destiny together under this Genzo Suikoden 6 channel so that we may show Konami that Genzo Suikoden lives forever and they need to finish the story. Yuba and Pesmerga, Harmonia, the Grasslands, Zexen, and what became of them. Please help me and join me in this journey. Like, subscribe, and share the video. Comment below on your favorite memories of Genzo Suikoden 1. Let's unite together as the 108 million Stars of Destiny in the sky. Suikoden fans forever. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this channel, and let me know also in the comments below what other Genzo Suikoden related videos you would like me to make next. Please tell me, is fate unchangeable?